Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Picture this. You're sitting in a conference room with 23 other executives. Everyone has perfect PowerPoint presentations. Engineering milestones are ahead of schedule, and you are about to sign off on making a $25 million bet that feels like a sure thing. Now, here's the problem. When everything looks perfect in your boardroom, you're probably about to make a massive success. At HP, our perfect presentation cost us $25 million and taught me why your most loyal, talented staff often give you the most dangerous information. So here's my promise. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you the psychological traps that turn your best employees into accidental saboteurs and give you 5 specific techniques I use to get the truth that could save your company millions. So, let me give you the context here. We're talking about the HP Envy 133 specific product. It was the world's first 100% carbon fiber laptop ever made. It was an engineering that was ahead of schedule, and it created what we felt was a $2 billion market opportunity. However, 6 weeks later, Apple shifted the entire thin and light laptop market, and our sure thing became a cautionary tale on decision making. Now, let's face it, your people are not lying to you. They're protecting you. Every layer of management unconsciously filters out inconvenient truths. Think about the last time you delivered bad news to your boss. You probably softened the edges a little, emphasized the positives, and then waited for more data before giving anything, even in the context of something that was bad information or bad news. When was the last time someone brought you genuinely concerning information that challenged your current strategy? If it's been a while, then you're not getting the full picture. So, here's where we ran into our problem. We had 2 massive blind spots: competitive intelligence about Apple's roadmap and manufacturing complexity of carbon fiber production. Both pieces of information existed inside our organization, but they never made it to the decision makers. Information, let's face it, inside of our organization, when information is flowing around, it goes through more filters than an Instagram photo. Each management layer edits out inconvenient truths, not for malice, but for basic human psychology. People want to be helpful. They want to be problem solvers. They want to avoid being just the bearers of bad news. Here's the real question of really challenging yourself to how to think differently. When you think about when information is being presented to you, are your presentations emotionally flat, or do they carry the heat of market reality? Things are changing. Here's the latest. Or is it, nope, everything is nice and smooth? Another question is can your people drill down to specific names, dates, and direct customer quotes? And then do your reports acknowledge contradictory data? Not all data lines up. Can they report or acknowledge contradictory data, or is everything pointing in the exact same direction? So, one of the things I started doing was I was treating information like a scientist treats data, because the key here was to drill down and get better data to make better decisions. So with healthy skepticism, and I had put in place what I would call multiple verification methods, starting off with what I called the 3 temperature checks that I use. First, the emotional temperature. What's the real market insights? Real market insights carry emotional weight. Not everybody agrees. Certain categories or certain personas in your customers will think differently. If everything looks homogenized and it looks the same, too sanitized means it's processed information. Granularity temperature. Can they give specific names, exact dates, direct quotes? Rather than saying several customers becomes show me the Austin focus group transcript of the focus group. I want to see the actual words used. So rather than letting information be processed, drilling down to look at the specifics. The other is what I'd call contradiction temperature. Market reality, let's face it, is messy. If everything points in one direction, someone edited out the complexity. And I've seen this rationalized 100 different ways, like, oh, those are edge cases. That was only one customer or one person in the focus group. No, listen to everybody. You want to look at those contradictions to kind of see where the edge boundaries are in the decision that you're making. Now, let's face it, being in an executive role like I was, or if you're in an executive role or management or leadership role, the most dangerous position for you is being consistently right. It means you're not getting challenged with difficult truths. If everybody in your team is basically saying that, oh, the whole view, the direction, yes, we're all as a team and we're all going the right direction, that tells you you're not being challenged with the difficult truths within your organization. So the question is how do you get to truth telling? How do you get a set of techniques that encourages your teams to be able to give you the truth? Now, what I'm going to share with you is these are not theoretical frameworks. They are techniques that changed how my organization handled difficult truths after the NV133 crash. So there's 5 of them. Technique number 1 is pre-mortem confessions. These are asking everybody in the team to submit anonymous submissions of their biggest fears before a major decision. Now they're anonymous, but you're asking everybody has to submit 1 or 2 of their biggest fears. And then what I would do is I would read them aloud without attribution and this removes personal risk, and it shows skepticism is essential. And the real technique here is now you had kind of the criticisms on the table, and you could make sure and stress test your plan against those criticisms. Technique number 2, messenger reward system. This is formally rewarding people who bring you bad news, not just problem solvers. There are some cases where people say something doesn't feel right. They may not have a full view of the problem, but they can't give you an answer, so they're not going to present it. They're like, nobody wants just somebody bringing problems. I need to be able to bring a solution. If you have that culture, break it now. You want to reward people who bring you bad news, not just the problem solvers, because it may require the team to solve the problem, but you need the bad news. I would do recognition in leadership meetings. I would consider that part of promotions. Within 6 months, the intelligence quality, the amount of good information that I was receiving to make better decisions improved dramatically. Technique number 3, now I've talked about this in past episodes, and that is the devil's advocate role. In this case, a rotation. Within your team, assign someone formally challenge the assumptions in every major presentation. Don't make it the same person. Rotate it among your team members. Their job is to be the devil's advocate. Their role is to be challenged. Now, you have to be a little careful. Some people you may appoint to be the devil's advocate, but because it's their buddy or whatever who's doing the presentation, they're going to go soft. They're going to be the softball players. So be strategic on who you choose to be the devil's advocate for each of your presentations, because then you can actually elicit and understand that it's not personal. That's not the objective. What you want to do is you want to institutionalize dissent. You want to make doubt safe to express across your teams. Technique number 4, the customer voice challenge. Now, I've talked about this before. Fast Company wrote an article about me on how I did this. I probably take this, and I will admit, to a little bit of an extreme. When I was the CTO at HP, I would spend 25% of my time with direct customer contact. So in some cases, that would be in the executive briefing center at HP headquarters. So leaders from direct HP customers would come in and I would spend time with them. I would present, but more importantly, I would sit in the meetings and hear from them. What are their biggest problems? What are their biggest challenges in their industries, within their business? For our consumer products, I would spend weekends, most every Saturday, in Best Buy, Circuit City, when it was still around, CompUSA, watching real customer behavior, watching them select products. I even got to the point where if they looked at an HP product, but then they chose a competitor's product, I would walk up and introduce myself to them. I'd hand them my business card. Typically, it would freak them out. And I would explain to them, I'm not here stalking you as a customer. I'm just interested in understanding. You looked at this product, but you chose this product. Why? What was the criteria using? The gap between what customers wanted and what our product teams imagined were staggering. Staggering. And there's been a bunch of past episodes if you're interested. I had some funny stories in the past I've shared. So, and then technique number 5, failure story requirement. Every presentation must include one failure story. Not dwelling on failures, but incorporating lessons from setbacks into the decision-making process and the decision-making culture within your organization. Now, so you have these techniques, but how do you measure that? Is there a way to measure this to know that you're making good progress? In this case, I put together a scorecard. I needed some way to measure whether these techniques actually were improving the information quality, reaching decision makers. So I put in place a 6-factor scorecard. Now, for each factor, you score 1 to 5. And it's not some mathematical formula, just a gut feel, right? But you want to do this on a quarterly basis. First up, signal clarity. Do you get specific details versus high-level summaries? Be careful of getting high-level summaries. Score to 1. You get overwhelmed in some cases in details that may not be good, but that's better, maybe a 4 or 5. Second is emotional authenticity. Is this genuine or does this feel sanitized? Do you feel the emotional heat that's coming in the marketplace, the competitive threats, etc.? Next is contradiction comfort. Is the teams acknowledging the messy reality? And in some cases, the unknown, like we don't know that answer. We don't know what the response from the competitor is going to be versus very clear narratives and the tone of being overconfident. What is that contradiction comfort? You want to be contradiction. You want to have the fact that the acknowledgement that it's messy, that would score 5. If everything is clean, buttoned up, sounds too good, that's a 1. And then the bad news frequency. How often you get genuinely concerning information? If you don't get anything, that's a 1. You get it on a regular flow and it comes to you at a pretty consistently over months or quarters, that's a 5. And then messenger diversity. So do you get your information from all across different levels within your organization? Is it everybody down from, the line workers to, individual contributors to managers to your directors to your VPs do you get diversity? Or does it only come from your direct reports? If it's coming from your direct reports using these hierarchical channels, that scores a 1. If you're getting it across the organization and people feel comfortable in bringing you the challenges or the problems people are facing, that's a 5. And then the last one is the speed of uncomfortable truth. How quickly the market shifts, how quickly does that reach you? Like, hey, we heard this rumor, or hey, this is happening, or hey, We just did this new focus group and they brought up something we had not anticipated. You want speed. You want that information to come to you when you can be best equipped to make the change. You get the information too late in the decision-making process, you're screwed. You can't react. You can't unravel when you're 90% through to delivering a new product and then find out that the whole thing is built on a house of cards. So what I would do is I would review quarterly all of these metrics. And I would, look at anything below a 3 tells me that I've got signal information silos that are forming within the organization and that I needed to go work with those leaders and invest in transforming those cultures within the organization. So ultimately, here's when the 5 questions that I think every leader should have written down, tack it to your wall, and ask yourself these questions to know that you're getting good, solid information. Question number 1, when did someone last challenge my assumptions with specific, verifiable data? When was it? Was it last week? Good. If it was 6 months ago, maybe you should go out there and walk around and talk with people. 2, are my presentations carrying emotional weight or are they feeling sanitized? 3, what contradictory information am I not seeing? If you don't feel like you're not getting that contradictory, go ask. Get up out of your chair, go ask. 4, who am I rewarding? Problem solvers or truth tellers? Now, you want your problem solvers, but you also need your truth tellers. And 5, how many management layers are filtering my market intelligence? How many layers is it coming up between the people that really know until it appears on your desk? And the more layers you have, the more filtered that information will become. Now, the key here is this is just a quick overview on the frameworks and the tools that are used. If you want the whole backstory on the NV133 project and what happened and how it got off the rails and why the response from our competitors basically submarine the product, hop on over to Substack, over to my Studio Notes publication there, and you can read all of the gory details that you want. But let's face it, building a truth-telling culture is critical for better decisions. And it isn't about finding better people. It's about creating better systems for handling difficult information. The market will always contain signals that contradict your plans. You can't freak out. The question is whether those signals can survive the journey to your desk so you can make better decisions. Now, my advice this week, try one technique. Run a pre-mortem confession on your next major decision or assign a devil's advocate to your next presentation. Small changes in how you handle information can prevent a $1 million mistake, or in my case, my $25 million mistake. So now I'm curious. Have you noticed patterns where information gets filtered before it reaches you and other decision makers? What signs have you seen that suggest your team might be protecting you from uncomfortable truths? Share your observation in the comments. So now, if frameworks like these help you make better decisions, hit the subscribe button, the like, and the notification bell. We need help with that algorithm so other people see our episodes. Now, each week I break down innovation patterns and decision-making systems so that you can become better leaders within your organization and you can take your ideas and turn them into game-changing innovations. Now, for the complete truth-telling scorecard and all the frameworks from today's video, again, head over to my Substack. That's where everything is. You can download it. You can read the story, the article, etc. Now, remember, the goal is not to be pessimistic or paranoid. It's to ensure that your decision-making incorporates the full spectrum of market reality, including the parts that don't fit into your preferred narrative. Until we see you next time, Have a great week. Get out there, take your ideas, deliver the marketplace the innovations that they need, and become a market leader. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.